Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Power Sports Memorabilia Show. I'm your host, Matt Powers. Thank you again for joining me. Don't forget to visit the website, powersportsmemorabilia.com. Also, give me a follow over there on Instagram, @Powers Autographs. Well, we're talking some fun things today. One thing that everybody likes to talk about, and of course I'm being a little facetious here, insurance. Now, this is something that I've seen people use too much of and then not have enough of it. So hopefully I can kind of bring a little bit of clarity to the topic for you. There's going to be two things we're going to be talking about today when it comes to insurance. We're going to be talking about in-transit insurance. Okay, so when you ship something to me or we ship it to PSA, wherever you are shipping something, any of your collectibles. And then the second thing we're going to be talking about is at-home insurance or wherever you keep your collectibles at, okay? So whether you have some sort of insurance policy for them when they're not in transit, okay? So again, not a very fun topic here. It's kind of boring, but it's something that you're going to need to learn about because if the stuff hits the fan and you need to use it, you're going to be very, very glad that you do have it, all right? So first off, let's talk about in-transit stuff. Now, should you be putting insurance on, let's say, an item that you sold or an item that you're shipping to PSA? Now, there's no one answer for this, okay? It really depends on a lot of things, and it depends on your financial situation, okay? First off, I would never use insurance on cheap stuff I'm shipping out. Now, cheap stuff may vary depending on what you are sending out, but let's just use the example that you have $100,000 in your bank account. And let's say you sold a $1,000 item to someone, okay? Yeah, you'll probably do a signature required, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. But do you really need to insure that for $1,000? Do you really need to spend the $10 or whatever it is that they charge you for that insurance? And my thinking is no. And the reason why is when you can kind of self-insure something. So let's say, for example, that item does get lost, okay? And I'm using air quotes there because we all know what happens with the post office or UPS sometimes. You can refund that customer and it will not affect you financially one bit. Okay. Now, if you're shipping out, let's say 1,000 packages every single year at $1,000 a pop, you can see how insurance can kind of get expensive. Okay. And the chances of that package getting, air quotes, lost again it's pretty minimal. It doesn't happen as much as, the social media crazies like to make you believe it does. Okay. So I would not insure something like that. Now, if I'm shipping out a $10,000 package, which actually is the limit that UPS and FedEx and I think the post office also allow you to insure it. If I'm shipping out a $10,000 package and I've got $100,000 in my bank account, I probably want to insure that because I don't want to be writing a check or refunding someone $10,000, right? So that to me would make sense where I probably wouldn't want to self-insure something like that, okay? You also want to think about what is the likelihood that this item will get damaged in transit. So if you are shipping a frame jersey, for example, and it's a $1,000 frame jersey, what's the cost to get that thing fixed? You're looking at what, $300-$400, somewhere around there. That might be something that you would want to insure because the likelihood of it getting damaged is higher than really any other item that you would possibly ship out. So I would probably insure your frame stuff, something that's more likely to do it. Now, something like a frame 16 by 20 or an 8 by 10, something smaller, probably not going to insure that, okay? You also need to think about where you are shipping your products to. So let's say, for example, you have an item going to PSA. We all know PSA has had issues with packages getting lost to them from FedEx ground, post office maybe occasionally. So any address that you are shipping to that has a decent likelihood that somebody knows what's being shipped to that address. So if you're shipping something to an auction house or you're shipping something to JSA, PSA, Beckett, for example, and people know about this address, there's a higher chance something could happen to your item, but it's still very, very highly unlikely, okay? So at that point, you're going to have to make a decision. Hey, is what I'm sending them, is it worth the cost of me insuring it? Now, for me, shipping something to PSA, if it's a couple $1,000 item, I'm probably definitely going to insure that just simply because I know that the likelihood of something happening is higher going to this particular address. And I've had it happen before, so I do have kind of previous experience with that. Luckily, I did have that package insured, so I was able to recoup my cost on that one. So that's something that you definitely want to keep in mind is where are you shipping this thing to? I talked a little bit about signature required beforehand, and I think that's actually a better tool to use than insurance. Let's say you send out a $500 package, okay, and it's insured, but the company says they never got it, or the person says they never got it, whatever the situation may be. To me, I would feel a lot better if I had a signature required on it as opposed to the insurance. And the signature required is actually a little bit cheaper when you break down the numbers. When you actually look, I think the post office charges like $3 or something like that. UPS and FedEx are more expensive. It's just crazy. I get my UPS bill every week, and I'm just like $6, $7 for a signature required at a residential address. Like, what does it make a difference where it's going to? I mean, so they just nickel and dime you on that. That's why I like the post office, because it's just a flat rate cost there. I like that signature required because typically when you sell items over $750, they're going to require that anyway. And I just like to have that on there so it says, hey, listen, it says that Mr. Power signed for this item at 2/14. And then they can have, they can go back and they can figure out who actually physically signed for it, where it's at, and whatnot. So I like that a lot better than insurance. So I think that pretty much covers like in-transit stuff. Now, the one other thing you want to think about too is if you are shipping something that is of, I don't want to say sentimental value, but it has a lot of time and energy that you put into it. Let's say you have a team signed New York Yankees item and you're sending it to get, I don't know, a random Yankee guy in there. Let's say the item is worth $2,000, but you probably want to insure it for more than that because of all the time and effort and cost to get in these signatures. So something like that, I would definitely insure. Stuff that's kind of irreplaceable. You probably get the money from it. You would feel a lot worse if you didn't get the money for that irreplaceable item. So irreplaceable items, I typically probably would insure if it's of some decently significant value. For an in-transit policy, there are companies out there, and I have one of these policies in place where it covers you as long as you use UPS and FedEx and a signature required. You do all the three of those things, well, you would ship with FedEx or UPS and then use a signature required on either one of those services. You don't have to insure them anymore. It covers you on your on up to, for my policy, it's up to like $100,000 with a $500 deductible. So that's a pretty good policy, and it cost me only about $1,000 or so a year. So, and luckily I've never had to use it, but for me, shipping stuff back and forth from signings, that's a good policy to have. Now, if you're one that, like someone like me who ships a lot of stuff, that might be something that you would probably want to consider having in your wheelhouse and your insurance repertoire, I guess. So, but again, I think that kind of covers everything for in-transit stuff. All right. Second thing is at home or wherever you keep your collectibles at. I did a video with my buddy David Dale, who is an insurance company. You can go back and watch that here. He talks a lot about insuring your collectibles. Again, when you're keeping your stuff at home, or let's say you're keeping it in a bank vault, wherever it is, you definitely want to be having insurance on what the current value is of that item. So the current replacement value. What would it cost if those items were lost, stolen, whatever it is, right now for you to get those replaced? Okay, so you're going to have to keep updating that every year. Very important that you've got pictures of your stuff. A spreadsheet would be good. Let's say your house burns down. You've lost all your stuff. You want to keep digital copies of all that. Those are kind of the small little things. It takes a little bit of legwork. It sucks. I know. I hate doing this. I just got a new safe today, and I'm just like, oh my God, I got to move this down here. It's heavy. I got to put all this stuff. Stupid stuff. But you know what? I feel a lot better having documents and all that kind of stuff in a safe. So that would be something else that I would consider doing, is having some sort of fireproof safe for you. And wherever you're keeping your collectibles at, having an alarm that'll let you get a little bit of a discount on your rate. So go back and watch that video with Dave. I'll try to link it up here somewhere on the YouTube video. So that would be my suggestion for your at-home collectible. Again, you're probably never going to have to use it. But that one time that you're going to have to use it, you're going to be like, you know what? It sucks, man. I lost all this stuff here. But you know what? At least I can get some sort of monetary value back for it, and I can start again, or I can, you know what? I hated that stuff anyway. I want to go take that money and go buy something new. It just depends, but you know what? Nothing worse than having your stuff get lost and not getting any money for those items, all right? So you definitely want to be covering your butt with the insurance. It's not as expensive as you would think it would be. It's very, very cheap, especially if you're not doing a lot of in-transit stuff, because the insurance companies know that the chance of that being stolen at your home is very, very minimal, so they keep that policy really, really cheap. So don't be one of those douchebags that doesn't get insurance. Don't be that guy. Okay, get insurance. You can call Dave. He can hook you up with someone. There's a company up in Ohio that I use for my in-transit stuff. All the companies have it. You don't have to use who I use. You can use whoever you want to. Talk to your local insurance guy if you have one. If they don't write policies like this, they can find someone who does. It's not hard to do. But please make sure you put it on your checklist to get done ASAP. So hopefully this helps kind of clear the air with you guys with the insurance for collectibles, all right? If you guys got any questions, let me know. Don't forget to visit the website, powersportsmemorabilia.com. Also, give me a follow over there on Instagram at Powers Autographs. And I will see you on the next episode.